doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. So I think so many people know you, but for those who do not know you, what's your name?
My name's Lindsay from Lindsay Does Languages.
So what languages do you speak and how many of them do you use for work?
Good question. So it's a tricky question, I think. What languages do you speak? If I answer it as what languages have you studied? So English native language, skip that one. French and Spanish are like my stronger ones, and they're the ones that I use for work. So I teach the three. I've taught all three in the past, and then studied like loads of others. Right now, my focus is Guarani, which is an indigenous language spoken in Paraguay in South America.
Wow. May I ask why?
Why Guarani?
Mm-hmm.
Good question. So I think about 3 years ago now, so about 2015, I was doing my final dissertation for my Spanish course of my degree, and I wrote about Spanish around the world. So I wrote about Spanish alongside English in the US, Spanish alongside Catalan in Catalonia, and Spanish alongside Guarani in Paraguay, because all three of those situations are completely different. And, I knew about Spain, I knew about the US, didn't know much about Paraguay, didn't know much about Guarani. And as I kind of learned a bit for that dissertation, I thought, this is really interesting. But then thought nothing more of it. Thought, okay, that's that essay submitted, done, degree finished, right, there we go. And then when a little bit after that, I got married, and we knew for a long time we wanted to go on sort of a extended travel, if you like. And we thought, well, let's just make that our honeymoon, and let's also work so that we don't just get bored going, oh, look, a thing, photo, another thing, photo, right? So it was this kind of combination on this trip. And we decided to make a series called Language Stories. And so as part of that, we were going to meet people and interview people about languages along the way. So I thought, Guarani, perfect. And so that was about a year before we left. So I started studying in May 2017, and then we went to visit in March, April 2018 this year. And now I'm back, and I still want to keep going because I just love it. I fell in love with the country and the place and the language even more. So yeah.
So interesting. I think I could interview for many hours just to know more about it. I will go back to our topic, but I would love to hear more about that another time. What languages do you use daily for your daily work?
So daily work, it's mostly in English. And then what happens, like my job is kind of, it's hard to describe. It's the kind of job that when I was at school, they didn't train you for because it just didn't exist. So I teach English, French, and Spanish, but right now I'm not actively teaching. I'm more helping people learn languages on their own and then helping people teach languages. So that doesn't really come into it anymore. So the languages I use for work kind of change because as I learn languages, I then use that as sort of things to write about and things to make videos about and stuff. So, for example, like Guarani at the minute, I'm thinking, okay, how can I, write about this? How can I share this with people? And towards the end of the trip, we were in Japan. So it was like, okay, so now I want to bring in Japanese. I want to look back at that, and because I studied that a few years ago, and bring in some sentences and things like that. So it changes regularly, and that's I guess the beauty of what I do for work is that I can decide, okay, I'm intrigued by this random South American indigenous language. Let's write about that and let's bring that into my regular job. So then my own kind of learning side of things kind of crosses over every now and then with work, which is pretty fun.
Nice. What do you do apart from teaching and teaching people how to teach?
Right. So that stuff. So me helping people learn languages better on their own and helping teachers teach online. That is all taught through courses and sort of digital products and stuff and one-on-one time with me and group calls and stuff like that. But then no one knows about that stuff if I don't blog, make videos, social media, all of that kind of promotion side of things. And so that's where it fits in. And so it's the promotion, I guess you could say, that then feeds into the work that pays for a roof over the head.
How often do you publish videos or write articles for your blog?
So what I try and do is have like one piece per week. Like this past year has been really sort of up and down as we've been traveling around. But generally I try and have one blog post and sometimes with an additional video on Tuesdays and then another video on its own on Friday. So like I mentioned, like with the language stories that we've just been recording, they were every 2 weeks because they were a bit bigger and meatier, a lot more research and work went into those. But generally I try to publish something once a week.
Nice. Yeah, I know it's lots of work. It's really like...
yeah, it's a constant kind of cycle. You think, oh, all of a sudden it's Tuesday. Okay, how did that happen?
Thank you. And so how long did it take you to get where you are? So to have like your job, language related job, as your main income?
Good question. So from 2000 and maybe 2010, I would say, I was working in a school. Oh no, 2009. I was working in a school. And so the nice thing about that is you finish work at 3:30. Yay! It's almost half a day's work, almost. And so I would finish early. And because I finished early, that meant that I got paid less, right? So that was the downside. But then that also meant that I had to get inventive and think, well, you know, how can I make more money to kind of, you know, give me enough money to have pay rent and everything, right? So I thought, you know what, I'm enjoying the education side of things. I just started my degree, which was like part-time, so it was kind of all fitting in with work. And I thought, but how can I sort of teach more? Because I wanted to teach. And so I thought, well, I could teach privately. I'd been to Costa Rica in the past. I taught there. I'd done some voluntary teaching as well. And so then I started to teach part-time, and there were a few tutor websites I put myself on kind of locally. This was like driving around. So like I'd drive for like half an hour to someone's house, teach them for an hour, you know, drive somewhere else, teach them, get home and think, oh, I'm starving. Okay, dinner time. And so that was for like maybe 2 years. And then in 2012, I changed jobs from one school to another school, doing the same job, but a completely different school environment, and I absolutely hated it. And when I left the first job, I left to go traveling in Asia for a bit. And when I came back and I found this other one, I thought, brilliant. It's in an affluent area. It's an outstanding school on Ofsted, which is like the school grading system we have here in the UK. And I thought, oh, well, that would be easy compared to this other one I was at for 2 years. That's like, you know, really tough kind of neighborhood. And actually, it was the opposite that was true. And the second school, I hated it. So I had this idea in the back of my mind that if I hate it, it's okay, because I can just quit and try and go full-time with the teaching. So I did. And I was really lucky that was in April. So I left at Easter, the Easter holidays of the school. And then in May, one of the students that I taught a pair of sisters, and their dad, where he worked, it was in a bread factory. And they'd recently employed, kind of as their business had grown, they'd employed loads of staff from an agency, hadn't given them interviews, and then thought, we now have this amount of business all the time. We need to keep these people, so we need them to now speak English, because they hadn't had interviews. So they were just literally manpower. There was no language skill there. And it was obviously dangerous. You know, you've got someone who doesn't speak the same language as this person going, turn off the machine, you know. So I was in teaching English there in the daytime, and that was really a real lucky break, you know, because that meant that I wasn't just relying on, okay, I need to teach after school every single day from like 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And if I miss one slot, then I don't get enough money for the whole week, you know. So that was a real lucky thing. And then I got another job in a sort of local study centre place where they taught refugees and asylum seekers English as well. So that was great because that was daytime. So those two things combined really helped in the early stages to just give me the cushion that I needed to actually build the bit that I really, really wanted to do, which was the sort of private one-on-one stuff. And so really, I was lucky. It wasn't a case of sort of struggling along with a couple of students for a while. I was able to to build slowly because of this sort of cushion in the daytime. And I think that's really important. I was in a position where I could say, right, I quit my daytime job because I hate it and give it my all. But even if you can't, I think it's important to think, okay, well, what amount of money do I want to earn before I then say, okay, adios, job that I hate, and
Yes.
let's do this full time, because it's a big time commitment if you're already working full time. So, yeah.
Yes. Oh, very interesting. And afterwards, so how did you switch then to teaching? So what did you do afterwards?
So it was 2 years, kind of 2012 to 2014, when I was teaching face to face. I was driving around manically every evening, using almost half of my earnings on petrol. It must have been, no, I'm kidding, not quite that much, but it was pretty crazy. And because the other thing is, when you're teaching people after school and you're going to their houses, it's rush hour. Everyone's trying to get home.
Yes.
So you're going against all this traffic, and then you get caught up and you're late for the next one, and when you're late for one, you're late for the other. It's a domino effect, right? So it's a great job if you can get it locally and you can get it all tied in, but it's very stressful in terms of time management stuff. So, but actually I was enjoying it, because after 2 years I'd got to a point where everything fitted really nicely. Students on this day were all really close, like 5 minutes apart. Wonderful. Next day, 5 minutes. It was really working well. But my now husband, partner at the time, he started to train to be a primary school teacher, and we said, okay, well, wherever you get a job, we'll move to. That's more important, because I can just take my job anywhere. And I thought, but how can I take my job anywhere? And the way to do that is to move online. And so it was then about, okay, well, I'll teach on Skype. So I started very kind of tentatively with italki and just, a couple of lessons here and there on italki. And I thought, you know what, this is good. I can do this. And then I thought, well, how are people going to find me? Because before I'd been spending like an afternoon each week walking around housing estates, delivering leaflets through doors. That's not going to be any use when I'm on the internet. I literally have the whole world that I could reach. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll write a blog. And I'd written, when I was in Asia before the horrible school job, I'd written a blog before, just because I thought writing a million different emails is going to be too stressful. I'll just write that and share that with everyone. And so I thought, oh, well, I can do this blog thing. Yeah, so that's fine. So I started to do that. And then I started to make video. And it just kind of snowballed from there, really. So that was 2014. And then in, let me think, 2015, end of 2015, I launched my first online course, which was a whole other step then, because that means I wasn't then relying on, I'd lost the bit of relying on driving between houses, but then I wasn't relying on solely, okay, I need an hour of my time sat with this person live, so that was almost like the cushion then, like the lessons in the daytime before were. So yeah, so that was another change, and then just kind of grows on from there, really.
Oh, that's a very nice story. I like it very much. Very interesting. So you do think that it's possible to make languages the main way of supporting oneself?
Yeah, I think so. And I think now more so than ever, like, you can really get creative. If you love anything, you can make it your business with the internet. Yeah.
In your opinion, what are the biggest obstacles you have had to overcome, or things you had to learn along the way to get to the point where you are?
I think that there's a lot more to it than the first thing. So the first thing that draws you in. So for me, it was, well, I like teaching people. I want to teach people languages. But actually, then even before going online, there's so much more to it than that. There's the whole kind of business and finance side of things that you have to learn to figure out how to do. Because right in the beginning, you can't afford an accountant. You have to just go with it, and you're wearing all the hats, you're doing all the jobs, right? And so yeah, there's a lot more to it than just the thing you love. And if you can do those things and still love the thing that you love and still love your work, then you're onto a winner. Yeah.
Very nice. And he said it very, very nice. Yeah. Do you have any tips for someone who aspires to turn their passion for languages into a real job?
Yes, absolutely. I would say, don't feel like you have to do everything at once, right? So that applies to every step of the way. So as you think at the beginning, well, I can't do it because I have a full-time job. No, you can. You can bring it in. It can be, as they say, like a passion project or a side hustle. You know, these like buzzwords people throw around. You know, you can totally start small and build up, because you know, if you quit your job and then you try it and actually, I don't like it. I don't like this thing I've decided to devote my whole life to. That's not great. So, you know, keep your job. You can start small. You can build up from a really small base. And like I say, you don't have to do everything at once. As you go along then, and as you think, you know what, okay, I've got an Instagram page for my business. You don't have to then get on LinkedIn and Facebook and a Facebook page. You don't have to do everything. You know, really focus, start small, and then build up from there as you grow. And you'll see all of a sudden you think, oh wow, how did I get here? And plan as well. Set goals and set a plan to make sure those goals happen. That's the other big tip I would say.
Oh, thank you very much. It was so interesting. Thank you so much for your time, for your story. Yeah, well,
You're welcome.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, so I hope to see you soon, and thank you again. Bye.
No problem. Thank you. Bye. Bye.